Hi, everybody. Joe Goodman from Goodman Games here for What's New with Goodman Games. This time we're live for real this time, not just pretending. Welcome, everybody. Glad to see in the chat that it looks like we really are live right now. I'm going to briefly introduce everybody, and then we'll talk about what we're talking about today. So, hi, Joe Goodman, publisher of Goodman Games. I'm going to pass the baton to Brendan. Brendan, tell me what you do for a living.
Hey everybody, Brendan LaSalle. I am the outreach manager for Goodman Games.
Mike, tell me what you do for a living.
Hi, everybody. I'm Michael Curtis, Director of Product Development for Dungeon Crawl Classics and assorted related titles here at Goodman Games. And I will introduce you to the person on the other side of the fence, Chris.
Hey, my name is Chris Lindsay, and I am the Director of Development for 5e here at Goodman Games. Super excited to be here.
Matt, you're next.
My name is Matt Hildebrand. I am the art director for Goodman Games. And last but absolutely not least, tell us what you do, Mark.
Hey everyone, I'm Mark Bruner. I do a few things for Goodman Games, including writing, editing, and what I'll talk about a little bit later is some project management stuff I'm doing.
Awesome. Welcome, everybody, and welcome to everybody in the chat. We're looking forward to chatting and talking with you today. So some of you may have noticed that Chris Doyle is not here. He retired after Gen Con. We wish him the best in his hopefully peaceful retirement. And we have Chris Lindsay joining us. Chris spent many years doing a lot of exciting things at Wizards of the Coast, including launching 5e during the 5e glory years, we'll call them, from 2014 to whenever it was, 2019, 2020, the good old days of 5e. And also spent a lot of time running the WotC Adventurers League, which will help us with our organized play initiative. And in general has a wealth of experience to bring to play, as we'll talk about in a sec. So welcome, Chris. Good to have you, and everybody else. So what are we going to talk about today? So we're going to talk about several projects we have in the works. We're going to give additional information and new cover art and stuff like that for some of the stuff we've already announced. And then we'll also be talking about a couple of new initiatives we have in the works. What we're not going to talk about is Kickstarter updates. We often get people asking us, hey, what's the status of my pledge? Or did my credit card go through? Or I moved. Here's my new address. This is not the best place for that. Go to the crowdfunding pages. There's regular updates being posted. But I can put in one plug. We have a project called Terror from the Underdeep, which is 5e only, but it has a special clamshell box, which is turning out amazing. So there's pictures of the prototypes of that on that crowdfunding page. And we're definitely going to apply that to some future projects, such as Castle White Rock, Pinball Crawl Classics, because it's a really cool new way to do a box set. But in the meantime, that's the basics. We'll be right back in just a sec, and then we're going to talk about old school adventures, and then we'll keep on to a lot of exciting topics. So we'll be right back. All right. Hey, everybody. I'm here with Chris and Matt, and we're going to talk about old school adventures. So we announced this, I guess it was a couple weeks ago now, and it is basically a line of adventures in a hardcover format for 5e only. And there's plenty coming for DCC, don't worry. This line's 5e only, and it is about conjuring up that feel of original adventure that we all recall, old school at its best. And we invited Chris and Matt here to talk first about the adventure and then about some of the art, including the variant cover that Matt's going to unveil in a bit. So, Chris, do you want to tell us about Old School Adventures?
Absolutely. Thanks, Joe. Old School Adventures #1, Ruins of the Twilight Marches. This is inspired by the classic adventure B2 Keep on the Borderlands. And it's set originally in the world of Aerith. However, it can, of course, be transported to any setting that you choose to play in. So perfect for any campaign. The Ruins of the Twilight Marches In this game, the wretched and the wicked have begun to converge on an abandoned dwarven stronghold. Their objective is, of course, to unearth the lost treasures of the former dwarven residents. The evil that we speak of was trapped centuries ago when meteors rained from the sky over this area, dropping tons of stone laced with a strange glowing ore called star ore. At the time, a rift opened, taking a bite out of the countryside, and some of the most notable denizens within were sealed inside. More recently, groups of goblins, kobolds, bandits, and worse have congregated in the ruins, and individuals within those groups have been mutated by the star ore, exhibiting altered physiologies and strange powers. So we're going to see some real weirdness with the creatures. These groups have claimed territory within the ruins, occupying, fortifying their areas, even as they kind of search for lost treasures of the dwarves who used to live there. There are 4 primary adventuring areas inside the dungeon. Each one, of course, is represented in a separate chapter all its own. The first chapter of Dungeons is Mad Mardra's Gloomwing Warrens, a chapter by Harley Stroh. Here we find the characters caught in a conflict between the self-styled bandit lord King Cannon and a veritable legion of kobolds who serve Shadow in the name of their rat queen, Mad Mardra. The effects of the Star Ore and the Shadow Realm can be seen among their ranks in the form of the corrupted Gloomwing kobolds. The next part of the adventure is titled Embers of Anvilhome, a chapter by Matt Young. We find the characters exploring a site of an ancient dwarven forge and encountering newly minted monster variants, including void goblins and the cosmically corrupted Starfall undead. There are worse things in goblins in the residence, however, and you're going to have to play to find out. Blackened Veins of Starlit Doom, written by Nat Edge and Nick Mnenga, finds our heroes discovering a population of anthropomorphic beetle folk calling themselves the X-Chicks, who are strangely unaffected by the emanations of the ore. I bet you didn't think I could pronounce that, did you, Joe?
I did not. Full disclosure.
They have,
I didn't know
however,
how to say it, so I was waiting to find out.
oh yeah, I spelled it out phonetically for myself and everything here. They have, however, collected up the strange ore and are using its warmth to hatch their spawn. Who knows what will come from that? And finally, the adventure wraps up in Down Dimly Lit Halls, a chapter by Aaron Averum. The characters delve deep underground, encountering a host of Grimlocks before arriving at the site of an ancient temple. Within the temple, they find the ravenous and alarmingly venomous species of fish folk that are new, called the Terravol. They have taken up residence in proximity to this large underground lake over which the temple resides. It's there where our characters are going to discover a gate to a shard, spoiler alert, of the Shadow Realm and the fate of the ancient dragon Orichalcus, who was once a champion of good in this world, but has now been, I don't know, affected by the energies of that realm.
I sense a spoiler.
So, yeah. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Matt to show us some cool stuff.
Yeah, sounds great. So I think, a book with 4 awesome adventures like this needs an appropriately awesome cover. And truthfully, I don't even know if one cover is enough. So I think we should do 2, Joe. What do you think?
That's a great idea, Matt. Do you happen to have one lying around?
Yeah, hold on one second. I'm sure I have one here somewhere. I think we can rely on Elena to throw one up that probably has already been released. I think that folks probably recognize this this cover. I think that it's made its rounds. As we said, there's some elements to this that just scream old school. right? And including the slightly distressed cover that we've put on it to give it even a little more gravitas. But this features a colorful piece by Will McAuslin, and even the color treatment of the book itself kind of draws in that old school look. But so if you are interested in backing this, this is the cover that you're probably going to get on the regular edition. If you go to the store and you see it on the shelf, this is what you're going to find. However, I think that it totally makes sense to do something potentially even more old school looking as a special part of the crowdfunding. If you decide you can upgrade to this special cover that is going to get treated with a as yet decided material, probably something black, maybe something with a little bit of texture. And we're going to print it with a couple colors of ink, including some silver ink, because as true fans know, upcoming is the 25th anniversary of Goodman Games. So as a result, I think a silver foil probably couldn't make any more sense. So we commissioned this piece from Stefan Pogue, who did an awesome image of this dragon creature coming through a portal and some adventurers in the foreground. And this mock-up makes it a little bit hard to see, but there's obviously some white, and then there's some silver. The blocks of that portal with all the runes is going to be a nice shiny silver, and not even a title on the front. We're going to devote the whole front cover to art, and that ink is probably going to it's going to touch the spine and some of the back as well. But that is the new reveal of the extra old school cover for Old School Adventures #1.
They both look great. And I think this brings up an interesting point on what I'll call the aesthetics of old school. I think some of us see that first cover that conjures up clearly, Chris, as you said, keep on the Borderlands, which many of us remember fondly from the good old days. And just the color scheme is, I don't know even how to pin it down, that sort of shade of like purplish red, and then the tones that Will picked for the cover art, the kind of earth tones, that just does it all for me. And that's clearly
the distress marks are exactly like the one I slept on. So when I was a kid.
Me too. Are you also a side sleeper? Yeah. And exactly. But you kind of had to live through the TSR era to get that, Whereas I think the other one, I think black and white art is like the stuff of zines, right? Goodman Games has made an indie license, and there have been literally hundreds. We're the second most popular category on Kickstarter. DCC RPG after in the RPG realm after D&D. DCC is the second most popular kickstarted system, which is insane. And a lot of it has that black and white art, and that just really conjures up old school to a lot of people. And it's interesting to me that I think both of these conjure up old school, but for totally different reasons and from different angles, but they both give that signal that your character is probably going to die. The GM gets a lot of latitude. Don't argue with me about rules. Like whatever you define old school as, it's right there.
Yep. The answer's up here, not on your character sheet, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's super accurate. Yeah,
So
I love both
actually,
of those covers.
Everybody tell us in the chat, which one do you like better? I'm still undecided if, which one should be the quote main pledge item and which one should be the variant, The silver foil is definitely more expensive to print, but if you people in the chat have opinions, let us know.
Yep. You are the right person to make this decision. So if folks have a strong opinion, weigh in and you can make the call.
Yeah. Chris, anything else you want to throw out about the adventure? I mean, I know you and Harley have been working on the overall plot and individual authors doing the chapters, and it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and David Michael Williams did a lot of the editing development work on this, and I got this comment over and over again from David, like, this looks really hard. Are you sure you want this to be like this? And I'm like, oh yes.
That's great. And I know
not putting that down.
That's old school. And you alluded to that, the hint you said at the end about the dragon. We are thinking about a sequel to this. So folks, if this does well, there will be more. Oh, and to answer a common question we get, people say, well, what about Original Adventures Reincarnated? Are you doing this instead of that? And the answer is no. These will sit side by side. Old School Adventures is adventures we will create that are not necessarily, licensed from another classic property of some kind. Original Adventures Reincarnated is predicated on getting licenses from iconic adventures from the past, and that's a little less predictable than us sort of commissioning our own work. So those will still happen. Trust me, we have some in the works, but it just depends on when licenses get signed and so on and so forth.
And I do have to like actually take my hat off to Chris Doyle, who started this project, and he kicked off a lot of the story work on this, and did a fantastic job getting all of the designers off to a great start. And just made it super easy for me to pick up the ball and keep running. So thanks, Chris.
Exactly. And you guys overlapped for 1 or 2 weeks, whatever it was. So it was
Couple
nice
weeks,
working
yeah,
out.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
Cool. All right, good. Well, thanks. I think I'm looking at I have to take notes so I remember everything. We have some other stuff to talk about. I know if you're a DCC fan, you probably want to hear about Pinball Core Classics. So Chris, Matt, anything you want to say to round out Old School Adventures before we move on to talking pinball?
I don't think so. I couldn't be more excited about it. So far what I've seen is awesome. Chris and I have been collaborating on some awesome stuff. I can't wait for it to come to fruition.
Wear a helmet.
Okay, great. On that note, we'll be right back to talk pinball. Hey everybody, we're back. How's it going, Mike?
It's going good, but I'm out of quarters. So I hope that won't be an issue.
You just got to bag it just right
I
above the security
spent
lock.
all my quarters, surprisingly enough.
Actually, so it's really funny. Sorry, I have to lead with a random anecdote. I have my coffee here. There's a coffee shop like 2 blocks from my office that has pinball in the back. So I've been getting coffee far too much lately because I got to basically play pinball. I got the jackpot on the Terminator machine a couple days ago, and I thought I'd set a record. But dude, my score is 31 million. Some dude had 231 million. I'm like so far. All right, that's a total distraction. We're here to talk about, I guess, other kinds of pinball.
Always what happens. Yeah. So with that uncomfortable introduction, we are next going to talk about pinball crawl classics, which is Joe in his in infinite wisdom decided that hey, people need DCC MCC adventures based on classic pinball games. So he got the rights to have 5 titles that we are adapting for the tabletop. So those are Centaur, they are Gorgar, Swords of Fury, Embryon, and Cosmic Gunfight. So basically, as it's a little different adapting a pinball game than it is adapting, a novel or a movie or anything like that, because there's not a lot of canonical background for pinball games. So it's mostly going on the vibe and the art and what have you. So that actually it has challenges, but actually opens up things, especially when you give it to a talented writer and say, "Hey, could you do a theme based on Centaur or Gorgar or Cosmic Gunfight?" And everybody has delivered an exceptional job so far. So. Uh, those basically what we're looking at here is out of those 5 adventures we have in no particular order we have Gorgar. Also, the adventure is also known as the Beating Heart of Gorgar. It's a level 2 DCC adventure written by Mark Bruner. And in this one, the party has to come to the rescue of the priestess of Shul, who has been kidnapped by Gorgar, as part of this massive ritual to free Gorgar and have Gorgar all over your place. So, if you know Gorgar, you don't want him all up in your grill. So, the PCs have to go in there and stop him. And Mark has introduced some interesting kind of metagame mechanics where you can use extra dice, maybe even all the dice against your foes if you make certain checks and everything. So, but, at the risk of causing the entire multiverse to tilt, so it's fun stuff in there. Um, Next up, we have Embryon, aka The Rage of the Red Ladies, and that is a level 1 MCC adventure by Julian Bernick. But I'm going to use, I say DCC, MCC. If you played either, with a little bit of little tweaking, you make these for anything that ends in CC. So for Embryon, the PCs awaken inside the S complex, which is this ancient installation, and they are confronted with Embryon, this AI who is trying to clone a new race known as the Red Ladies. And if they get out, they are going to turn Terra AD into even more of a nightmare than it currently is. So the party has to kind of go around and they have to find allies and they have to learn the secrets to defeating Embryon. If you know, actually, Lost City, it's kind of got a Lost City vibe because there's different factions going on in the installation and everything. A lot of fun on that one. Next up, we have Swords of Fury, which is going to be a level 5 DCC adventure, and this one is by James Posnell. And in that, the PCs gain Avenger, which is a magical sword whose fate is tied into 5 terrible captains who are part of this cabal holding some titans imprisoned. And your job is to basically awaken all of Avenger's properties by taking out these captains, so you can take out the big bad guys at the end. So, if you have to have the guts to draw the Swords of Fury and bring them up against your bad guys. Next up, we have Centaur. Centaur, otherwise known as Centaur Awaken. This is a level 1 MCC adventure by Bob Brinkman. And in that one, the cyborg warlord Centaur has gained the 4 ancient silver orbs, and he's plunged Terra AD into this monolithic nightmare. So the Seekers need to infiltrate Centaur's stronghold and steal the orbs of power. In this one, the map is actually inspired by the Centaur playfield. So it's actually, if you're looking down that, kind of all the locations are based on that. We're kind of playing around with that to make it an interesting map to explore. And last but not least, we have Cosmic Gunfight, aka Cosmic Gunfight over Asteroid Gulch. This is a level 3 DCC adventure by Brendan LaSalle. And in this one, the parties must journey across the lonesome cosmos to deal with some desperados who are threatening peaceful Asteroid Gulch. In your classic kind of cosmic gunfight, thing. It all culminates in a cyber horse riding showdown in an asteroid belt. So if your campaign has been crying out for robo horses, this is the one you want to pick up.
And I have to say, the word gulch is just not used enough. I'm glad we're working gulch to an adventure.
If you hear the word gulch, there's cowboys involved.
Yes.
So that's it. So these are going to be packaged as a box set. There are 5, skinny softcover modules, probably 24 to 32 pages to be decided. As once we get everything in, we do the layout and the art. But this is going to be part of the crowdfunding. And so there's going to be a crowdfunding exclusive version, and there will be a retail version. And let me tell you, you want to get the crowdfunding version. You don't want to sleep on this one, because we've been exploring some interesting. If you backed or have been following Terrors from the Underdeep, we have the clamshell version. Well, we have a clamshell version for this one, but most clamshell versions open up on the long spine, right? They open up like a book, and this we actually open up like the short side. And why is that? Because once you open up like that, it looks like a pinball game. So we're actually putting art on the inside cover and on the inside bottom of it. So it actually looks like a pinball game when you open it up on that.
Like the playfield. That was your idea, Mike, and it was brilliant.
Well, and then we found out, Joe was talking to the box maker guys, and they said we can do a sound chip. So
just to be clear, we may not be able to pull this off. We have never done this. They've only done it once, and they did it for one other company. It was really expensive and complicated, but we're going to try. So no promises.
All right. So
Mike, what will the sound chip say? You have to remind me.
It will send an assembly of 8 words, because Gorgar has a vocabulary of 8 words. So we have access to Gorgar sound files, and we will introduce them in probably something like, "Oh, Gorgar hurt you," or something along those lines. So you open that up.
If it works, no promises. But that's the vision. And the printer has a sample they did for another company that makes, I forget what, makes a noise when you open it. They can record up to like 8 seconds of sound or something. So yeah.
So we've done ridiculous things in the past, but we're always looking at ways to make things more ridiculous. So hopefully we will pull this off. So you definitely want to be notified for when the Pinball Crawl Classics and the Old School Adventures and a few other things which are going to be announced shortly go live in January of 2026. So
January 13th, I think we said, sometime around mid-January we'll take it live, and it's going to be awesome. Yeah.
So
awesome. Thanks, Mike. This will be a lot of fun. And I think we'll be back in a sec with Chris to talk about a new initiative for 5e that might eventually spill over into DCT too. But so we'll be right back. All right, we're back, Chris and myself, and I'm sure Chris is unmuted, and I'm not saying that because I can secretly see the mute icon beside him. And we're here to talk about another 5e initiative the Dragon Riders Primer. And boy, Chris, that sounds super cool. Tell me about the Dragon Riders Primer for 5e.
Absolutely. So it is a part of a new series called Eldritch Expansions. So this will be Eldritch Expansions #1, Dragon Riders Primer. In this series, we're going to focus on providing some new rules options for your 5e play. And then, like Joe said, maybe we'll see that in some DCC play in the future. I will let Mike talk to that more in the future. But for the moment, um, with Eldritch Expansions 1 Dragon Riders Primer, your player characters will be able to take to the sky using newly minted rules for mounted aerial combat that will tie very neatly into what's already exists for 5e mounted combat. And you can send your entire campaign skyward as heroes and villains alike kind of sit astride aerial mounts to explore and do battle. This particular expansion for the 5e rules features 3 distinct types of aerial mounts, including dragon mounts, flying animal mounts, and giant flying insect mounts. We have a broad selection in each category with a wide range of special attacks and abilities, so much so that I have been frantically trying to throw ideas around on finding a common naming convention for each type, and we're struggling with that just a little bit, but we'll figure it out, and we'll get them all saddled up. um, at any
And
rate,
this,
go ahead, Joe.
well, just to comment on the cover, you guys will see the cover right there. This is actually Doug's preliminary rough sketch. So it says that in the corner. Doug's still working on it. He had time to pull together something to show us here, but it obviously gets Chris's concept across perfectly. And it'll be a lot more fleshed out by the time we, take it live. But just comment on the cover. But the layout's awesome, and it certainly gets across that feeling of, wow, I'm going to get on my dragon or my other winged mount and get out there and go explore. And that's what we wanted.
Right. In addition to dozens of mounts, these mounts are going to have exciting abilities, things like the ability to sculpt light or evoke thunder, or mounts that can bind you in a cocoon or spontaneously manipulate probability, because I like to say that word online a lot. Probability, that thing that makes you lucky. There'll be lots of fun to go around. All kinds of things are going to happen with these critters. Each character can bond to one of the fantastical creatures, which will provide you with unique opportunities for aerial exploration, as well as exciting combat maneuvers and attacks when included in the game. Okay, the primer is also going to feature a system for managing long-distance aerial travel, as well as tables for possible encounters and hazards, atmospheric or otherwise. And then let's not forget, we're going to have a handful of new character subclasses that, while they won't 100% focus on the aerial combat aspect, they will be definitely keyed into that style of play, as well as a bunch of new spells, feats, backgrounds, everything you need to kind of customize your play experience. Take this, in whatever quantity you want to put it in your campaign and really take off from there, right? There's going to be new gear, magical and mundane. And then, of course, to wrap this up, we're going to provide a plethora of guidance for the game master on how they can easily incorporate all of these new options and get their campaign, whether it's a new one or an existing one that's been playing for a long time or even a short time, off the ground. So look forward to that. We're super excited for this. This is, of course, inspired by flying mounted characters, aerial mounted characters across many genres of games, RPGs, novels, and otherwise. So hold on to
Hey,
your
Chris, I
hats
want to,
and strap in.
if this were a text message, I'd push the little button that says emphasize. I'm going to emphasize something you said, or really a lot of what you said. This is like a crunchy 5e book. Lots of
Oh, yeah.
good, solid crunch. Like not a lot of fluff. Rules for new classes and subclasses. Rules for mounts. Rules for aerial combat. This is the kind of book that'll give you all the mechanics you need to play a lot of great adventures and expand your campaign in different, I mean, literally different directions, like up, but also like all sorts of creative directions as well.
Yep, yep. And if you like this one, maybe we'll plan more aerial mounts in the future.
So, and I have to say, noting the design here, it is Eldritch Expansions Book 1. We are thinking about other ideas for what I'll call sort of, crunchy 5e expansions. And I do think there's room here for some sort of adaptation of this idea to DCC. Chris made a great point, which is this currently, and Chris, feel free to elaborate on this, but it's not necessarily intelligent mounts. This isn't like you hop on your, gold dragon and bond with it and so on. This is
No,
more sort of a, I don't know, not mundane, but more
they're
about
yeah,
writing rules than like bonding rules per se. Is that an accurate interpretation?
exactly. All these mounts have like basically animal intelligence.
Yeah.
Anytime you put another intelligent creature in a character in a party, it's like adding another character to the party, and it creates a level of complication for the game master. And at that point, um, you have sort of like skewed all the numbers and stuff, because then that creature has kind of a will of its own, right? And so then the game master has to figure out how to incorporate that role play and so forth into their game. Now, that isn't to say we won't do something like that in the future, but that will probably come with additional guidance and a whole lot more playtesting before we're ready for it. In the meantime, though, for a mount that can take to the air and will allow you to participate in a three-dimensional experience, we're going to put so many options in there that there's going to be something for everybody, really.
And this is where we're going to crowdfund this alongside Old School Adventures and Pinball Crawl Classics in January. So when the cover art's finished in a short time, we'll add that final cover art to that project. You'll see it on that project page. And to Chris's point, there's a lot of, once you start thinking about flying creatures and riding dragons, there's a lot of room to explore that concept in the future, both on the 5e side and the DCC side. And that's something we, definitely want to dive into. I want to address one thing I saw in the comments. Yes, Pern. So I read actually, I know you read Fourth Wing also, Chris, which is a great book. I know Pern's a whole different story, but I read the whole Fourth Wing series. I started rereading Pern. Yeah, there's just a lot of great inspirational, what do you want to call it? Sci-fi, fantasy fiction around flying combat, flying battles,
Exactly.
flying mounts. There's so much out there.
Watch Avatar, right? I mean,
Yeah.
part of that is combat, boots on the ground. Part of it is flying on your big pterodactyl, whatever they called it, creature, and kicking ass. So good times.
Yeah, good times, exactly. So everybody, look for this in January to crowdfund and exploring this idea of both sort of 5e crunchy expansions and mounted combat, mounted aerial adventures, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be fun. So yeah, to answer Danny's question in the chat, this specific book won't be released for DCC, but we have a lot of really cool ideas to build on this idea for DCC that'll be, that are percolating to come down the pike. Cool. Chris, any additional comments you want to add, or did we forget to mention anything about this one?
Nope. We've got everything that we know at the moment, and that we've developed and that we're creating out there. It's what we know. Well, maybe we know a little more.
I think hopefully we know a little bit more. Yeah. So far, we've written 9 words, which are in the middle of this chat.
No. We know a little more.
Excellent. All right, cool. That's it for this topic, everybody. We'll be back in just a sec to talk about Dungeon Con. Hey everybody, we're back. Hey Brendan, how's it going?
Fantastic. How you doing?
Pretty good. All right, so I hear we put on a good con last year. Dungeon Con went pretty well, huh?
It went great. If you didn't have the opportunity, I have to say our first ever Goodman Games live event was an absolute blast. Dungeon Con 1 was fantastic. We held the whole thing in the Goodman Games warehouse in Fort Wayne, Indiana. It was a riot. We had fun games. The sale was amazing. Everybody had a, it was our very first. There were some hiccups, but we learned our lessons. I want to say, and I was real proud of the overall event, and I can't wait to spring Dungeon Con 2 on everybody, Joe.
Yeah, Dungeon Con 1 was awesome, everybody. I mean, that's like what I dreamed about when I was a child. I don't know. Do you remember the comic books where you could win the prize and it was you got to like push the shopping cart around the Lionel Play World?
Shopping spree.
Yes, and you got like 10 minutes to put as much as you can in the cart. Like that was like the vibe I wanted to have at Dungeon Con, like wandering the warehouse shelves, throwing stuff in your box, and I feel like that came alive. And there were lots of fun games out there in between the aisles, in between the pallets.
Yeah.
Everybody had fun. And this time we're growing up and going to a real convention center. We're getting like official now. You want to tell them about that, Brendan?
Absolutely. So Dungeon Con 2 is going to take place May 1st through May 3rd in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We're going to be at the Goodman Games warehouse again, but we will also be at the Grand Wayne Convention Center in downtown Fort Wayne, which is a fantastic facility. It's huge, it's spacious, and it's really comfortable. It's going to be great. So what we're going to do is Friday is going to be the warehouse sale. Just like last year, you're going to be allowed to come through and actually peruse our shelves and like see, everything that's on there. And it'll be both deep discounts. Okay. So it'll be like a really good deals on a whole lot of things and perhaps some special items that will only be around there for, I don't know, some special stuff.
That is
a special thing. I'm just saying special stuff only going to be at the warehouse sale. Possibly, we'll see. But it's going to be rare items as well. So it won't just be like our what we bring to conventions, what we have in our store. It's things that we don't have on the website anymore, things that we don't sell. These little tiny gems that are all around the warehouse that we've had from years and years bygone. So it's your real opportunity to find some real Goodman Games treasure. So that would be just that. I think is going to be worth the price of admission, right? But not enough this. So Saturday and Sunday, we will be at the Grand Wayne for a full-on convention experience. So Joe and I, we've been talking for a long time about putting together a convention, and this is going to be the real deal. Full-on convention center. It's going to be fantastic. It's open to any GMs that want to run events. It's actually live now. We'll put a link. Link's already in the chat for tabletop events. So we're accepting events from anyone who wants to run some coolness. Come hang out, blow the roof off the dump. It's gonna be a blast. We're also looking for
awesome. Sorry, before we dive in, let me. I'm gonna
please
push the button on the text message to emphasize. Yeah, it's gonna be a ton of fun. So Friday is gonna be a true warehouse sale. So no gaming in the warehouse this year. Friday is just shopping at the warehouse. To Brendan's point, you'd be surprised. I saw Jen, our warehouse manager, in the chat earlier. How often like the team there will unpack a box and it was labeled, I don't know, DCC core books, and it turns out we sent it back from Gen Con 2015 and it was at the bottom of the pallet, and somebody finally opens it and there's all sorts of amazing stuff in there that we thought was out of print. We actually just got a pallet back from one of our fulfillment partners who found some stuff, and we got some crowdfunding exclusives that are now back in stock. So this is your chance to wander around and find all the stuff that's missing from your collection and fill it in. I also want to comment on Stefan's amazing art, which you're seeing on the screen right now is the official logo for Dungeon Con 2, and it was fantastic. But Friday, just the warehouse sale. Then Saturday, Sunday is going to be gaming in the Grand Wayne. And Saturday, we'll also have the warehouse open for anybody who had to work on Friday, can't make it till Saturday. But again, in the warehouse, just warehouse sale in the Grand Wayne. All sorts of gaming. There'll be a vendor hall. Oh, tell me about the vendor hall. All that kind of stuff. We're like a real con. We're growing up.
It's gonna be a real con. We're lining up vendors even as we speak. We're gonna have some cool local people there, and some prizes will be amongst them. We're gonna have I don't even want to go into. Can we mention any of them yet, Joe? Can we actually?
We're still figuring out our plan, and this is kind of like technically not year zero, but our first year in a real convention center, so it's kind of like a year 0 or 0.5. So. Cool stuff is coming, but we're still figuring out some of the details.
Goodman Games -1. Yeah,
exactly. I know. They just announced the sequel and they called it 0.
I know.
I know.
I'm super excited.
It was obvious, but that movie was so good, though.
Oh God.
So we should probably tell. You want to talk about events? Yeah, we need people to submit events, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we absolutely need people to submit events. I'm going to be running a bunch of stuff. We're also going to have a charity event run by our own Chris Lindsay, which is going to be fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, we want your events. We want you to come and play. We want you to come and run, and it's going to be an absolute great time. Also, can I mention our one more special thing, Joe? I don't want to steal anybody's thunder here.
Steal it. Steal it.
All right, all right. So we'll also be. This is also going to be we're going to have a charity component to our event, and we will be supporting Food Not Bombs, a charity that we supported last year at Dungeon Con 1, and we raised a good bit of money for them, and it's a great cause, and we really support here. So we hope you'll come and participate in that as well. It's going to be fantastic.
Awesome. And actually, I think we have one more piece of art, right, Elena? Do you want to show Stefan's mock-up? So you just saw Stefan's Dungeon Con 2, like sort of
So
official
good.
logo. It's so good. Yes. He's also doing the program guide illustration. So we're going to have a program guide. It'll have new content in it as well. There'll be a short adventure as well as, event listings, guests, stuff like that. But this is, again, a sketch. This is not final. It will look more finished. But the sketch is awesome. The color rough that Stefan did. And I can't wait to see this on the cover of the program guide because it's going to be an amazing book. And again, this will only be for sale, at the con. And I think a lot of people are going to come just to try to pick that up because it's going to be an awesome, awesome illustration.
Very, very
To
cool.
answer the questions here, unfortunately, this one is not a virtual con. So we don't have any plans to add, I don't know, Zoom components. Obviously, Cyclops Con, which is about to happen, I guess technically happens in like 6 hours or whatever, but starts tomorrow officially. That'll be our virtual con. Dungeon Con will be physical in person at the Grand Wayne. And we may have a live stream. I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. But
Yeah, we're still.
Still early stages. The games are going to be awesome, though. It's going to be a fun con.
Yeah, it'll be fantastic. If you can make it out, I highly recommend you do. You will come, and it's a fantastic opportunity to meet all of the Goodman Games luminaries, hang out with the fandom and the crowd, and just have an absolute blast.
And we're officially capping it right now at, I want to say, around 200 to 250 people. That's based on like fire marshal rules and the size of the room we got. I keep going back and forth with the Grand Wayne. In theory, if we start to bump up against that limit, they have a couple other, they're really big convention halls. They have a couple other rooms we can rent out. So submit your events. If you want to run events and we hit the cap, we will frankly try to accommodate it and try to open up more space. It just gets into the logistics of renting more space. But we want to make this as exciting as we can for the community.
Yeah, we're really excited about it, and we hope you'll come and be a part of Dungeon Con too.
Awesome. All right. So we will be right back with more community building stuff to talk about organized play. So be right back. Hey everybody, back with Brendan and Chris, and here we're going to talk about organized play / road crew. And we're pretty excited because we've been, I guess, road testing our organized play program at cons now for 2 years. Many of you played at all the various cons, Gary Con, Game Hall, Origins, Gen Con. We had different events. Yeah, it was a lot. And it went really well. So we have worked through the kinks on how to have a big sort of shared table experience. And in 2026, we were ready to roll that out to have it not just at cons, but support it with lots of adventures that you can play in your home campaign and have table portability. So you can take your characters and move them from campaign A to campaign B, or con A to con B, or your home group to this home group, to Chris's home group, back to Brendan's, over to Gen Con, and then head back to Game Hall. So I'm here to briefly outline what we're working on, and this will be kind of a rollout and probably fairly complicated, so we might not get it perfect, but that's why right now we're talking through the theory of it, and then we'll actually execute it next year. But Chris is busy commissioning not 1, not 2, not 5, not 10, but 11 adventures for next year, which will form the backbone of the organized play campaign that he's put together. It's actually going to feed into a really cool idea for a product release coming about a year later, which you'll have to wait a year to find out what that is. But it's really cool. It's setting something up really cool. Chris is talking about awesome ideas for an epic at Gen Con next year. Many of you have participated in organized play in the past and know what we mean, but big events where different tables interact and sort of crossover, and it's epic in every way. And we're putting together a really cool plan to give you the material to play an awesome campaign over the course of the year. Of course, you can also play existing adventures. You can also, interrelate that with the stuff we're going to be releasing, and otherwise kind of mix and match. But the idea is that we'll give you a campaign to be part of, and that you can join that and take it anywhere, whether a con, a home game, a store, etc. And speaking of
I will
stores,
say,
oh, go
with
ahead,
the
Chris.
story for that,
Yeah.
I've been working hand in hand with Mike, and we are taking turns on who gets to make the module first or the adventure first, 5e or DCC, and pass it back and forth, and then change it up, and then at the end, with our epic, we intend to run something in 2 systems simultaneously, where all the characters, regardless of which system you're playing, are participating in the same adventure, with different missions, of course. So can't wait.
Yeah, that's a great reminder, Chris, that this is cross system. So DCC and 5e all the way through, but especially at Gen Con. The plan is grand to have them all interact. So it's going to be pretty exciting. You can obviously play this anywhere. If you're playing it in a store or a public venue, the road crew will still support you. So we'll still have road crew. It'll still be out there to give you swag if you're running, either physically in public or, live streaming, YouTube, Twitch, etc. We are going to simplify the road crew quite a bit. I know many of you are, the events page can sometimes be a little bit clunky. We're going to streamline it. So there's going to be swag. We're still working on the details, but probably first half, second half, something like that. So it's less about, I played this game, I'm documenting that, I now submitted it, now I order my swag. And it's more like, I'm going to order 6 bookmarks and 12 dice or whatever it might be. And we're going to try to make it much easier for event organizers to organize, X number of events at this coming con, and then just order the swag for the judges. So hopefully you'll find road crews simplifying, still very easy to run in public. And if you happen to be running organized play in public, you get the swag for that. If you're running organized play, at home or whatever, you still get all the benefits of having all these shared campaign support assets. That's the basic idea. I see I see some positive mentions in the chat. So great. Glad that's well received. And it's going to be awesome. Now, the one thing we do need is judges. We're basically always in need of qualified judges, and we give you perks depending on the con and details and so on, but you get various kinds of perks for judging for us. So Brendan, I know you guys were lining up, specifically the next con on the horizon is GaryCon. Do you want to talk a bit about some of the judge needs for GaryCon organized play?
Yeah, absolutely. We're definitely looking for judges for organized play right now. So if you're interested in coming, if you're going to GaryCon and you're interested in running some OP and being part of our huge gang, it's always a great time. It's a lot of fun. We're all, we wind up being sort of this one cohesive crew at the convention with this sort of one shared experience. It's a blast, and I hope you'll be a part of that if you come. You'll get the adventure far in advance of anybody else, and we've got special perks for people who are going to come and run our organized play events. So please email us info@goodman-games.com if you're interested in specifically, I'm asking for GaryCon, but in general, if you're interested in running at conventions, but specifically, we're looking for GaryCon judges right now. So if you're going to GaryCon and you feel like doing some organized play and being a part of the Goodman Games crew, please let us know.
Yeah, and to that point, the cons where we generally will run this will be GaryCon, Gamehole, Gen Con, Origins. I think that's the list, unless I'm forgetting one.
Dungeon Con.
Oh, duh. Yes. So if you want to be at any of those cons and get some perks, depending on the con, it varies from hotel credit to free admission to advanced copies of the adventure and so on. Definitely drop us a line, and we'll try to keep your email on file. But anyway, it's going to be a lot of great gaming. That's what this boils down to, and we're going to try to get everybody playing in a shared campaign in an awesome way, and then supporting just that sort of sense of camaraderie. But that actually is a great segue to the fact that in the prior year, we ran organized play at cons for Castle White Rock. And all those Castle White Rock adventures will be available as part of the Castle White Rock crowdfunding. So why don't we come back in just a sec and talk a little bit about that. All right, everybody, we're back here with Mark Bruner, who's been working on Castle White Rock for an entire lifetime, or maybe it's just been a year and a half. Sure seems like it. But Mark, I know we have Castle White Rock slated to crowdfund next April, and you're here as the project manager who's been working nonstop on it for a very long time, to tell us all about it. Coming from both DCC and 5e, which is why Chris and Mike are here. But Mark, take it away and tell us what you're planning for this amazing box set.
Yeah, thanks. And like you said, Joseph, if any of you have been doing the organized play over the past couple of years, that's a sample, right? Those are the first few levels of Castle White Rock. But Castle White Rock is a mega dungeon. And so this is intended to be a campaign that you can run for a single location that takes your characters all the way from, basic first level all the way up to 15th level in 5e or 7th or 8th level in DCC. And so if you want to, you can just use this as your setting. You've got a home base, from a city nearby that changes over time as well. So as you bring back wealth and, you start building up your houses and your manses, you can actually start influencing the politics of that place, and then you go back into the dungeon to gather more wealth or do more adventuring. And there's so it's that classic sort of multi-level dungeon where you also have like this base of operations you can come out of. So it's really exciting. It's going to be for both 5e and for DCC. It's huge, right? So there are 15 levels that are fully developed, as well as 15 sub levels. So it's intended to be, something you can explore, over years of gaming if you're going to continue with it as a mega dungeon campaign, or you can. It's actually designed so you can take those levels as individual adventures and run them just as one-offs. Each of the levels is sort of self-contained in that regard. And we also have some guidance in the book about stitching together sort of mini arcs. So if you just want to say, hey, I want to see what this mini arc is to deal with this, rescue the villagers have been captured by the slavers, right? You have this sort of mini arc of 3 levels that you can put together and easily run over the course of a few sessions. So it's very modular in that sense, but it's intended to really be this rich setting that you can dive into and keep at. And then fit it into your larger campaign if you want to, as well. So the thing is, I think this thing is probably one of the bigger, pieces of work that Goodman Games has done. I think it's about 400,000 words, just for the base. That's and hundreds of pages. So it's a very large set. It's going to have hopefully a lot of very cool accompaniments as we go through the backer kit or the Kickstarter. We're gonna hopefully expand into some of the rich details that Goodman Games is known for. Bring some of those elements like big poster maps or some of the artwork that's that's kind of key here. But that's all going to be part of like the crowdfunding that we're going to be doing later on. The thing I also just wanted to kind of emphasize here is that this is a dynamic dungeon. That's the other thing that I think is really kind of fun to do for these mega dungeons, so that you have intrigues and plots and different ways of approaching it. Your PCs could be the heroic type and going and rescuing folks. They could be the ones that just want to get the treasure, and there's some ancillary plots that they're also pursuing, or maybe they want to win fame in the underworld, right? They want to go down and delve deep and fight in the arenas that are down below, and that's how they they win their renown. So I've been working on this for months. Obviously the organized play has been a component of this too. We've got a lot of talented writers on both 5e side and the DCC side. Just very excited to bring it, and hopefully it's going to be a rich campaign setting for both DCC and 5e. And I know we have some other folks on the meet that can talk a little bit more about the 5e and DCC elements, and one of them has probably some direct experience on mega dungeons that might be relevant as well. But just excited to finally bring this forward, and hopefully people are going to react to it really well.
And it's like, I think of it as a true mega dungeon in the classic sense, a sort of giant castle with this sort of crumbling remains, and then level after level after level, and civilization after civilization after civilization built on top of each other, or built below each other, I guess I should say, under the remains of the castle. Like, it's a really cool, iconic concept you're bringing it to life really well.
And it's got in the setting, it's got like 1,000-year history, right? So there's information back there going centuries back about all these factions that have come over time, sort of like waves of waves, that some of them have stayed, some of them have been driven out, but they've all left some imprints, right? Which is another cool thing. And you can also see the imprint of previous adventuring parties that have gone in, and maybe they're things that are still around, or maybe it's just stories about how they failed or what they encountered that you can gather information about, that your PCs might be able to find helpful. So yeah, it's got this kind of like long backstory too that can really inform how a judge, or a GM takes it and implements it for their campaign table.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mike, Chris, anything you guys want to add in terms of adapting to the respective, systems?
Did we cover what levels is for? Should we mention that?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Good
Yeah,
reminder.
so roughly it's intended to be, each 15 levels is intended to be roughly a one-to-one correspondence for 5e characters. So, level 1, you go in at first level, and then at the end, if you make it all the way in, it should be 15th level. The sub-levels are accounting for that too. So each level plus a sub-level is kind of like what you'd get to the next level in a 5e. For DCC, it's roughly about half that. We'd expect the characters would be at least 7th level by the time they try to tackle that final level, but they could be even a little higher. So it's intended to be roughly sort of like a progression that's one for one for 5e, and about 1 to 1.5 or 1 to half for DCC. There'll also be a 0 level component as well for DCC, so it could be a funnel introduction. And so intended to be, you could take a very nascent group of adventurers and bring them into their careers as adventuring parties.
And I think one other point to mention you reminded me of is that we released a lot of Castle White Rock content over the last 2 years as part of the OP project. And as we integrate that, something we're thinking about doing, which could be a model for future years, is maybe taking some of that and making a sort of hardback out of it. So the crowdfunding will be, you got your massive mega dungeon with 700 or 800 pages or whatever it is. If that's not enough content for you, we'll take some of those OP adventures, some of which were like the Journey to Castle White Rock, and there was the free RPG Day adventure and the DCC Day adventure, and maybe compile them in like a supplemental hardcover for the people who want to make their campaign really big and go on for a really long time. Cool. Chris, I know you've been sort of, wrapping your head around this from a 5e perspective. Anything you want to throw out there? And
No, every time you get a mega dungeon though, it's exciting. You never know where that's gonna lead. I'm always curious to see who's got the stamina for 15 plus 15. The challenge, the gauntlet is thrown, right? So there you go.
Yeah. Awesome. So it's been in the works for years now. Mark's been slaving away in the Underdark, pulling this together. I know last we talked, I want to say many of them, the levels are now completed and either edited or ready for editing, if I remember correctly. I mean, part of the goal here, it's a monster of a box set. We want to have it sort of ready to go before it crowdfunds in April. And I feel like it was pretty far along. Remind me how much.
Yeah, everything has been written. It hasn't gone through editing yet, but I tend to be a little fastidious about my own editing and writing. So a lot of it's, I think, sort of pre-edited in some ways. But the next step will be to take it to editing. We also got art orders in the work. So it'll be, the goal is that by the time it crowdfunds, or we launch the crowdfund, all the editing, all the writing will be done. We'll have examples of the artwork, and then we can focus on any additional content that comes out of the crowdfunding. So yeah, it's like I said, it's massive, but we've done the writers have done a great job to get us to where we're at, and kudos to them for it's basically like 18 months that we've been working on this to get to the point where we are, because yeah, it's a lot of content.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I think in terms of other crowdfunding options, I should mention this. I've been talking to some folks about sort of new frontiers for DCC dice. Impact has done a fantastic job doing resin and acrylic dice over the last couple of years. And Impact is now working on the possibility of gem dice for DCC. So still a lot of details to work out, but if things go well, we will hopefully have offered alongside Castle White Rock some additional dice options. I've seen samples that are really cool of amethyst and crystal dice that are DCC, the 7, the 5, the 14, as well as the traditional polyhedrons. So that's in the works and will hopefully come to fruition in time to be part of the crowdfunding. So the lineup next year for the first half will be January for Old School Adventures, Pinball, and Dragon Riders Primer, and then April for Castle White Rock. And then one more thing that's worth mentioning about Castle White Rock, if you already have a mega dungeon and a hardcover to support it, clearly what you need is more dungeon. So one of the things we're also doing is opening up ways for indie DCC and indie 5e publishers to support it. And the idea is simple. Imagine you have on level 7 a corridor that ends in a cave-in. What if an indie publisher said, well, actually, that doesn't end in a cave-in. There's a door, and it leads to my dungeon, and here's 7 more rooms to put there. So there's about a dozen indie publishers who will also be supporting Castle White Rock as part of this. And we've already done a blog post about them. You can look on our website to find that list, and we'll probably republicize that soon. But if you're interested in this mega dungeon, we'll make it easy on the crowdfunding page to also follow along to all the indie publishers who will be expanding on Castle White Rock as well. And it's a lot of prominent indie DCC publishers whose name you'll recognize them for sure. And it's going to be a really cool way to take this cool. I mean, Castle White Rock is more than just a mega dungeon. It's frankly almost like a campaign setting. Like it's fuel for years of adventure, years of real time adventure. And some of these indie publishers are expanding that in cool ways that we haven't even thought of, that'll make it an even more exciting place to adventure. Awesome.
I think for those dice sets, we need definitely like a white rock colored dice set, I guess.
Good point. Yeah, actually, the crystal kind of like see-through kind of has that,
Yeah,
you know,
little flecks of crystal and white in there. So
yeah, exactly. But you're right. I'll see what I can do.
We just have a one-sided die, which is just a white rock. That's it. It's a white marble. That's it.
Collectible.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Awesome.
exciting to see like how all the tie-in stuff is going to come together, and just seeing some of that, you know, being worked in from ideas. So yeah, it's definitely expandable, and we're going to have some expanded, you know, areas that are already there from the get-go. So pretty cool.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Mark. Thanks, Mike and Chris. And we will come right back to talk about a few more things. Hey, everybody. So I'm going to talk to you all about a few other things coming down the pike, and then we'll circle back for Q&A at the end. But I'm going to briefly mention something pretty exciting. But both, this is what I'll call bittersweet. There's a Humble bundle running right now, which is an amazing deal. It's called, I think, Last Call for Lankmar. So Goodman Games has had the Lankmar license for, believe it or not, 10 years, a decade, which is pretty incredible. And by we, I mean mostly other people like Michael Curtis and Jen Brinkman and a number of others have done incredible work on the Lankmar series. But our license is coming to an end. And that happens with all licenses sooner or later. 10 years is a long run too, and we did amazing work. The box set, well, actually 2 box sets, 15 supplements, plus some other preview works along the way. So this is kind of truly last call for Lankmar. Our license expires at the end of the year. So if you'd like to grab it, the Humble Bundle is probably the best way, because you get a ton of PDFs and an amazing deal on the Tome of Adventure hardcover, as well as the box set and sort of the last adventure we have in print. Or you can also pick it up from the online store. But definitely check out the Humble Bundle, and I think we have a link here for you, which I'll put in the chat. Anyway, hope you enjoy it. It's a great deal, and get Lankmar before it's all gone. We don't have that many copies left, so sooner or later it's going to run out. And don't feel sad, folks. We have a lot of other really exciting things coming. One of the good and bad things about being in business for 24 years is things come and go, and that's the nature of how the world works. But there's other really exciting things, and it's not like Mike has nothing to do. Mike has lots to do with other really cool projects that are coming up. So in other news, we are preparing for what we call the Haul-A-Days, Haul, which is our annual Black Friday sale. So that does start next week. We're planning it for next Wednesday. And if you're attending CyclopsCon, you may get a little special something in your CyclopsCon tabletop events update tomorrow. So, you know, start your engines. And if you want to do some pre-shopping on the site, know that our big sale will start next Wednesday. Still a few details to hammer down, but it's a great chance to stock up on things you might have missed. It's one of the few times of the year where we do a site-wide sale. If you're attending PAX Unplugged, we will also have the same deal at PAX Unplugged. So whether you buy in person at the con or on the website, both will apply at the same terms. So come by the booth at PAX Unplugged, or make sure to pick up something in the online store. And while you're at PAX Unplugged, I will be there personally, so I'll be there signing autographs at the booth if you'd like to get something signed. And Bob Rollbuilder, who is I'm sure many of you know, a big YouTuber and a big fan of DCCRPG, will also be doing a meet and greet at the Goodman Games booth. So we'll provide additional details on that in the days to come in our blog. The other kind of interesting thing that's coming next Tuesday is the Backer Kit Holiday Marketplace. So we are joining, I think the current count is something like 150 other creators in their holiday marketplace offering ready to ship items. So what that means for us is we're offering a lot of items that were formerly part of crowdfunding campaigns, and we have 5 or 10 left over. So if you missed the original Dark Tower crowdfunding campaign and never got the super cool maps that were part of the stretch goal pack, this is your chance. If you missed the X-Crawl campaign and never got the adventures that had the foil treatment on the logo, this is your chance. If you missed Dying Earth and didn't get the entire bonus box set that crowdfunding backers got, this is your chance. So crowdfunding backers originally got all this stuff for free as a stretch goal. In this crowdfunding holiday marketplace next week, it'll be for sale at a price, not quite as good a deal as what the crowdfunding backers originally got, but it will be discounted. So definitely check out the Backer Kit Holiday Marketplace, which will launch next Tuesday. And again, not just us, I think it's like 150, 200 other publishers at this point across all categories that Backer Kit offers, pins, books, RPGs, etc. But we're all offering ready to ship items. And for us, this is a chance to bring back some of the crowdfunding special editions that we typically don't offer in our online store because they're specific crowdfunding platforms. And this is a chance for you, if you missed the original, to get some of the special crowdfunding items. Cool. Last couple things, and actually, I'm going to spend 5 or 10 minutes here talking about the Goodman Games 25th anniversary. We have an exciting new logo, which is a slight variation on the original concept, which we're going to show here. Believe it or not, Goodman Games is coming up on 25 years. We're currently 24 years old, which is pretty amazing. I started this and ran it as a hobby business on the side of a day job for the first 22 or 23 years. And now it has gotten a lot bigger and supports a lot of us, which is amazing. So first of all, yeah, we can almost rent a car. First of all, thank you to everybody who's helped make this possible over the years. It's really awesome to be doing this. It's really awesome to play make-believe for a living. And it's great to have the support of everybody who helped make this happen. This new logo is going to appear on really everything that gets printed for the next year. So the Dungeon Denizens 2 project and all the associated items in that, as well as X-Crawl Insider #2 that just went to the printer. Really everything you see for the next year or so will have this logo on it. If you read Marvel comics in the 80s, you probably remember that time when they did the little yellow character border for a month or two, whenever that was, when they had their maybe 40th anniversary, whatever that was. But on our hard covers, this logo will be printed with silver foil, and on the soft covers, it'll be printed with 4-color process to look like this. So it's going to be pretty exciting. And we're planning something exciting for it. Probably next November, more or less, we're going to have a crowdfunding that will consist of a 25th anniversary book, sort of a history / catalog of all the releases, something along those lines. Still working out some of the details, still brainstorming. That'll also... well, I should say, many of you may know the book Monsters, Aliens, and Holes in the Ground by Stu Horvath. He also runs the Vintage RPG podcast. Stu has agreed to write this book on the history of Goodman Games. So I've been doing interviews with Stu. And this process has been great because honestly, I don't have time to spend much time reflecting and thinking about the questions Stu poses and going back through my old files and archives and finding answers and looking at the history has really sort of been, I don't know, it's revealed a lot of cool stuff about the history and is provoking a lot of good thoughts and recollections. So Stu's working on a book. The crowdfunding will be probably that book and a Goodman Games art book. We have published so much amazing art in the last 24 years. It's really kind of spectacular, actually. And the names and some of the stuff that's come through the Goodman Games covers and interiors has been amazing. So some combination of a history book and a sort of product catalog probably, and an art book of some kind coming as part of this crowdfunding, working with Stu along the way. But what I share here with you, and I'm going to go through some images here, is things that I've literally been digging through old, family photo albums because, nowadays everybody has a smartphone and takes 1,000 pictures a year. Some of you may remember the year 2001 when nobody had a smartphone and you took maybe one photo every 12 to 30 days because you only, it was expensive and you had to develop the film and all that stuff. So I've been going through a lot of old files and photos and trying to pull together a really structured history and really wishing I had taken better notes along the way. So I'm going to show off a few things that I've found which are helping to establish the history, and also issue a call. If you're a fan out there and you have a photo of Goodman Games from really anywhere from like the early years up until maybe 2012 or 2013, I would love to have it. If you have photos of our booths, photos of you in a game, photos of your game master, I think a lot of it will probably be con photos, but I visited a lot of stores and ran a lot of the games at stores. If you're in one of those games and have a photo, I'd love to see it. Starting around 2012, 2013, 2014, everybody got iPhones. We have tons of photos, but prior to that, we just really don't have that much. And actually, I see in the comments here with the art book. Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to do an art book. I mean, simply the core DCC artists and Goodman Games artists have done so much amazing art. But when you also throw in some of the other folks we worked with extensively over the years, like, Errol Otis, San Julian, Jeff Easley, there's so many amazing artists that we have worked with, and we have such a wealth of amazing art. Um, Jim Sketch, great. Send me those photos, please. Would love to see them. So now, Elena, let's walk through some of the stuff we found, or I found as I've dug through this. First, I want to show you a printout of an email. And I was going through, I have a storage unit. I'm finally pulling out all these boxes from the storage unit. This is an email from the staff of Wizards Attic, which was the first fulfillment company that Goodman Games worked with. And they still owe me money, which is kind of a common story in this industry that I'll probably never collect. But this is an email telling me that on November 14th, 2001, they received Goodman Games' first product in their warehouse. So I'm officially going to call November 14th is the anniversary of Goodman Games, 25th anniversary. That's when our first product was actually printed and landed somewhere. There had been writing and so on that had taken place before that, but let's call that the 25th anniversary. So November 14th of next year, we're going to call that the 25th anniversary. The next photo I want to show is from the Gamma Trade Show, which would have been in March of 2002. And people often ask why we have a dinosaur on the logo. Part of it is because our first product had, was kind of a dinosaur themed product. But also part of it is we had this dinosaur head at our Gamma booth, which was the first booth we ever exhibited at. Me and my wife, April, and this would have been at the Orleans Hotel in Vegas in March of 2002. That's Rick Loomis, the former president of Gamma and head of Flying Buffalo Games. And there's a long story behind that dinosaur head, which we'll tell in the book or somewhere along the way. But that, I believe, is the very first convention that Goodman Games ever attended, ever. And as you can see, we had one book for sale, and those are like little spiral-bound previews of some of the subsequent releases. And, of course, the giant dinosaur head, which was the beginning of our marketing campaign to get people to come by the booth. So the next photo we have is what I believe was the first consumer convention we ever attended. This is Origins 2002. So that's me and my wife working the booth. Again, I believe we had, I guess by this point, we had 3 products available for sale looking at that booth, and we were announcing the Aerial Adventure Guide coming soon by Mike Merles. Some of you now know that name, and we'll tell some of those stories in the book as well. But that was a very long time ago at our very first consumer con. And look at how cons have evolved. Like now we used to go to Kiko's and get stuff laminated, and now the booths are so much more impressive. Then we have another photo. I believe this is Gen Con SoCal 2003. By this point, we had published, I think, 3 Dungeon Crawl Classics adventures. Number 3 featured cover art by somebody named Errol Otis. Nowadays, I think Errol's art is ubiquitous in the gaming industry, and of course was as well back in the 80s. But there was a long stretch where he was working in video games, and no one had really commissioned tabletop work from him until Goodman Games came along. I was connected to him by a mutual friend who attended the California con scene, who knew Errol's from the con circuit, and we commissioned the cover from Errol, and I think probably are the ones who sort of helped pull him back into the tabletop gaming scene. But Errol came and signed autographs at the very first Gen Con SoCal, which Goodman Games attended. Again, that's another story. But this is, so far, this photo, I've only found like a really low-res version from the internet. I can't find the original print. So if you are the person who took this photo out there somewhere, please email us a copy or scan it for us. I can't seem to find a high-res version. The next photo is from 2003 when I lived in Atlanta. And this is actually my home group back then, which is me, my brother, 4 of the guys who were part of my high school, and then a sort of a friend of a friend. Without going into a lot of detail, this was an awesome gaming group, probably one of the most fun groups I was ever part of. So anyway, miss all you guys. But this is the group that play tested Dragon Mech. So that was my home campaign with this group, and we eventually published that. Dungeon Crawl Classics number 3 was play tested with this group. Crypt of the Devilich, the original version for the 3.5, that was run as a tournament in, I think, Gen Con 2004. And this was the group one of the groups that helped play test that. So it's just a lot of fun pulling up these old photos. This is the one photo I have of that group. I don't know who took it or how I own it, but I somehow have a photo of it, and it was a lot of fun gaming with that group. The next photo is from Gen Con 2006, and this is the first photo I can find that has sort of several of what I'll call the modern group together in one place. From the left, that's Jason Little, Adrian Pommier, Brendan LaSalle, who looks exactly the same, myself, Chris Doyle, and Harley Stroh. But this is around the time that a lot of us started coalescing as a group and finding each other and so on. And it's just a great photo from back in the day. Then I have from 2007. This is a story we'll tell in the book, but this spinner rack, we sold about 400 of these spinner racks, and this combined with Free RPG Day was one of the things that put Goodman Games in a ton of stores. So I have this photo that I took in my condo in Chicago and cropped out the sides, but this is the original photo of that spinner rack that we used to sell it to retailers and distributors, which from a business perspective was a significant impact on Goodman Games. Then I found in another photo, this is from 2010. This is back when it was mostly Doug and I sort of brainstorming on what would become the Dungeon Crawl Classics role-playing game. And I had started rereading tons of old books and eventually read all of Appendix N. But this was I found this cover amongst the many paperbacks and scanned it. This is not a Goodman Games cover. This is some random paperback. I don't even remember what book it was. But this like conjured up the feeling that I wanted for DCC RPG, and you can see the similarities between this and what eventually became the painted cover. But this was a very early mock-up of a color cover look and feel that Doug and I traded back and forth. And basically, I found this in my files and I was going through old files. So it's pretty interesting, and we'll talk more about this when we pull together the book. And this next photo, this is a sunny day in San Diego where I lived for 3.5, 4 years, and this is where I read most of Appendix N. So my wife took, basically I found random photos that my wife took of me reading novels, most of which consist of me at the park or the beach. It's easy to read in San Diego, but here I am reading a novel, and this is that stretch where D&D 4th edition was unfortunately not doing so well. And I had a little time on my hands, and I read a bunch of books and then wrote DCC RPG. Then we have a photo from 2011. There was a game store in San Diego in the Old Town neighborhood called Game Town. And that's the game store where, like many road crew these days, where I put up a sign and said, hey, looking to form a gaming group, want to play some new game I'm making, who wants to help me play test? So this is the first, I believe, the first regular group to play test DCC RPG that I played with in the back of the Game Town, in their game room in the back for a year or two, way back in, I think it was around 2011, maybe 2010. And it was really fun to come across this photo because these would have been the earliest play tests of what later became known as DCC RPG. And the next photo is me and some of my younger cousins. And one of the questions I often get is, how did the funnel come about? And nowadays, the funnel is a very common convention in gaming. I'm pretty sure I invented it. There had been zero level adventures long before, but there hadn't been this idea of running 4 characters and letting a lot of them probably die in order to end up with one. And I honestly don't remember. There wasn't like a bolt of lightning. It didn't come to be in some specific moment. But this idea, which has now been adopted by a lot of other games, I was going through old photos, and I remember these moments. I would run games for all my younger cousins and some of my older cousins at family reunions. And I remember during the 3rd edition era trying to run a game for them. And it was really hard just because character generation was a fairly time-consuming process. And if you're going to have 1 or maybe 2 evenings with your younger cousins who aren't necessarily at the same, they're younger cousins. They're not going to be, they didn't read the book. They don't know all the rules. It was quite hard to get a game going. So one of my early motivations was to find a way to run games for these gaming groups that consisted of me and my, this is Cole, Antrim, and Caden, some of my younger cousins, and sort of speed up the character generation process and get right into the action. So I remember that being a motivation for what eventually became the funnel. Here you can see us playing Settlers of Catan. Before it was cool, before it got big, I would often bring some cool games, and we'd always game every reunion. And we'll come back to this in a sec. I found another photo that completed that journey in my mind. But the next photo, and I saw Jim Scatch in the chat. The next photo is from GaryCon. I think this is 2011, which was the first year that I believe we were going to GaryCon and starting to play test this game, which I think at the time did have a title. We might have been there in 2010. I can't remember for sure. So here I am with, again, I don't remember who took this photo. Somehow I have a copy of it, some random gaming group. And then the next photo is me, Harley, and Doug at, I believe this is 2011 Gen Con when it was, or sorry, GaryCon, when it was very exciting to be in Lake Geneva. And be there at the original source of D&D, playing games and hanging out and playtesting. So these are those early days before the game really existed and before it was released, but we were out there playtesting. Then my wife took this photo in 2011 of me riding adventure with my dog Warhol technically it was my wife's dog, but as these things go, the dog decided it liked me more, so kind of became my dog. And would often want to sit on my lap when I was writing. So this is the adventure on the table is the 13th skull. So apparently I was working out the details of that adventure at the time. And my wife took this photo and now it's preserved. So I can tell you this is when I was working on the 13th skull with Warhol. Keep me company. Then something I don't talk a lot about was the next photo, which is around DCC is almost the exact same age as my older son. He was actually born right before it released to stores. So 2012 was a crazy year for a lot of reasons. But this is one of the early photos of me working on DCC RPG or something Goodman Games related with him. At the time, he was probably 2 months old. Um, and it was a lot of fun and also a lot of work, but a lot of fun working with him at that time. And there's a couple other photos of me also, trying to juggle parenthood and so on. Then the next photo, and I'll go through these kind of quickly. There's only a couple more, but this is a couple of years later after that first photo of me at a family reunion running games. And by this point, DCC RPG was out, and it was really easy for me to quickly run games for all my younger cousins. So this is some of the same younger cousins, along with my brother and my sister-in-law and another cousin, Samantha. And the funnel had achieved its purpose. You can see here I was running Sailors on the Starless Sea, and I was able to quickly run games for a group in one night, get through character creation, and get straight into the fun of the adventure. So I think part of that sort of came to fruition. Then we have one more photo of Gary Con dinners with me, Jim Ward, Tom Tolis, Steve Chenault. We did this, I think, 4 or 5 years in a row. Kind of became a tradition for a while there. And again, this is just kind of the memories I'm coming across and things I want to talk about in the book. But it was sort of great to sort of form these friendships over the year at the cons and work with some of these folks who have been great to work with. In the final photo, one of the early ways that DCC RPG got created was Doug and I would go camping and talk a lot and game a lot. And I don't have photos of the early camping trips. Those would have been probably 2009, 2010, before anybody had iPhones. But I found this photo of a later camping trip. We took this photo because we passed a day use area called White Rock, as you can see. And yes, that is Doug hiding behind the sign. But this is one of those camping trips that resulted in a lot of great ideas and probably eventually resulted in an adventure or two. So those are some of the old memories that I've been collating and collecting. Stu has been interviewing me and will slowly be interviewing lots of other people to pull together this book about the 25th anniversary and do an art book and some other cool stuff that we're going to have as part of that crowdfunding that Mike is working on for TCC as well. So that'll probably happen around November of next year. The other thing to mention is next year is also not just the 25th anniversary of Goodman Games, but the 20th anniversary of Free RPG Day. And for those of you who don't know, I created Free RPG Day. That was one of the things that I did to help get Goodman Games into a lot of stores. I had the idea. My friend Aldo created the business that actually operated it. And that first year was a whole lot of Goodman Games releases. We had 3 releases in that first year to get the concept off the ground. So in addition to all of this, for our Free RPG Day release next year, we will be celebrating 20 years of Free RPG Day. So Stu just interviewed me and Aldo about how we created the event, and there'll be an interview in the back of the book for us describing how we made Free RPG Day, as well as a cover gallery of 20 years of covers and so on and so forth. And there will also be a lot of, not to leave DCC Day out, DCC Day is my next iteration on that concept of Free RPG Day. And Mike is working on a lot of really cool ideas for DCC Day, which we'll reveal in the sort of months to come. There's a lot of really cool stuff coming your ways. So that is a brief overview. That is 25 years summed up in a brief summary of some of the stuff that I've come across that's been really exciting and provoked a lot of great memories. If you are a fan and you have either memories or photos of us from the early days, we would love to see it. Please feel free to email info@goodman-games.com and send us what you can. And yeah, Jim, I know Free RPG Day at Games Plus. I waited in line at Games Plus many times. When I lived in Chicago, I used to come out and sign autographs and stuff at Games Plus. It's an awesome place for Free RPG Day. Anyway, now we're going to be right back in a moment with all of us back on the screen, and we will talk for a little bit and answer Q&A if you have any questions that we can answer. So be right back. All right. Hey, everybody. Back with everybody. Hey, Brendan, Mike, Matt's dancing. Chris, this is the Q&A part. So if we missed a question in the chat, feel free to drop it in the chat. We'll try to answer some questions. 5 or 10 minutes worth, unless you give us something that really keeps us on. And we never have time to answer them all. So if we miss something, feel free to email us at info@goodman-games.com. Any questions we can answer, though? Do, 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 do. Okay. And I don't see any questions in the chat. Maybe we successfully answered everything along the way.
20
Geniuses.
second delay, and then it takes everybody to time to type. So, what
Yeah.
is Barley Straw really like?
Hmm.
He smells like peppermint all the time.
He gets
He can-
great bear hugs.
Yeah, he can actually crack a rib with a hug without,
He
Yeah.
hugs you, and he somehow ends up on the other side of you.
Free hugs. Yes. Wait, we have one real question from, what is this? Death Angel is Shadow 1722. Humble Bundle does not have the physical DCC core book. It has if you pledge for the physical level, it's got the physical Lankmar box set, Lankmar hardcover, and Lankmar Skinny Adventure. But and I think you get a PDF of the core book, but if you want to get the physical core book, I believe there's a coupon in there actually for a really good deal on it, if I remember correctly. But you will have to buy it separately with that coupon code redemption. Jeff Whitty, glad to like hearing the stories. Part of the whole 25th anniversary book is Stu prompting me with questions, and I have all these stories, and then Brendan's going to be interviewed, and Mike and lots of other people. So it'll be a lot of just stories about the early days. What would be the best way to start growing organized play in LA? Great question. Run games at stores, cons. Actually, there's 3 good cons. Well, there's a lot of good cons out there, but Strategic Con has 3 well-organized cons in LA where we have a presence. That'd be a great place to run some games. Ask me how I know. Okay. Trying to keep up. City State updates. The best place for Kickstarter updates is check their crowdfunding page. We always get questions like this. There's various crowdfunding things in various states of fruition. They're all moving forward. So check the crowdfunding pages for those updates. How did we become the most caring tabletop RPG? It's the hugs. Definitely the hugs. What will the spines of old school adventures look like? Matt, you want to describe that with words?
It's going to be actual spines. That's
Yeah, backbones. We need photographs of your spines because we're trying
vertebrae
to
all the way down. That's it. Just holding it together. It's like a 3-ring binder, but with vertebrae.
Yeah. I do like the idea of a Punjar as a setting. I love that idea actually, and it's something we've been bouncing around. So that we're talking years out, but that may happen at some point.
Now,
ribbon markers. Ribbon markers. Great question. So, anybody know the word tariffs? It hurts. It hurts. So, yeah. So there was a moment earlier this year. Frankly, it's still continuing because nobody really knows what's going to happen tomorrow with these tariffs. But where do I even begin? Long story short, it's been a heck of a year. Tariffs were a big part of it. There have been moments in time when I thought I was looking at a 145% increase in my production costs. Then maybe I wasn't. Then maybe I was. Then maybe I wasn't. Then maybe I was. And I got to read the newspaper in order to find out for sure. So as things have gone to press, honestly, you can't have a plan anymore. It's kind of what are things like right now. So as things go to press and I send them to the printer, depending on what I think the tariff situation is like, there may or may not be more or less upgrades in the production. So there was a moment in time when I didn't add ribbon bookmarks because I had no idea what the situation was going to be like. As of right now, it looks like we're kind of in the clear as far as tariffs are concerned. But it is hard to tell you what the future will hold. So that is the long story around ribbon bookmarks. I would love to go back to very sophisticated bookmarks every book, but it depends on a lot of factors that are very much moving pieces. There's a lot of questions moving through here.
Yeah, they caught up.
Yeah, yeah. Shutter Mountains. Yeah, one of these days. X-Crawl Insider 2 literally just went to the printer yesterday, I think it was. And Brendan's working on the X-Crawl adventure for next Gen Con. You had a great, what was the term you used? Death crawl? We were debating not calling it a tournament, but calling it another word. And Brendan had some great ideas for words to call
I can't remember them all, but there was a bunch. But it was,
It'll be good. Let's see. will future third-party publishers have an opportunity to create for Castle White Rock? Yes. Email info@goodman-games.com if you'd like to be on board. What else? So is the OAR line going to continue? Yes, that is the goal. That line depends on licenses from other publishers. So we can't just say ta-da and guarantee ourselves a license, but we are actively negotiating several other licenses. And as those come to fruition, I would, can't wait to release some classic properties. Just depends on all the pieces lining up in the right way. Any plans for a future creator summit? Maybe. No plans for it in 2026. It's a tremendous amount of work to do those indie creator summits. So it's just a lot of work. So no plans in 2026 because we already have a lot going on in that early Q1 timeframe, including the Old School Adventures crowdfunding, but potentially for future years. Belt buckles. We actually have a couple lying around in the warehouse. So if you come to Dungeon Con, you might be able to buy one. Maybe.
First come, first served.
Yeah, exactly. The price of all that stuff has gone up quite a bit, which is, part of the complications. So we are looking at the swag we're going to do for the road crew next year. As we mentioned early on in the show, we're going to have it more like first half, second half swag, probably to make it easier instead of game 1, game 2. I look into belt buckles as an option. However, historically, they've just gotten more and more expensive and it becomes harder and harder to fit them in. Shh. Okay, Jen. All right. Any other questions for Brendan? Anyone to ask about Matt's hairstyling products? Yeah, exactly. All right, we might have answered all the questions. Retro distressed purple book cover. Oh, you mean like a dust jacket? I think what you're asking there is like a dust jacket for the foil version. Dust jackets are, as we have learned, really cool ideas, very hard to execute for a lot of reasons. And they are really hard on fulfillment. We frankly didn't charge nearly enough because for fulfillment to ship them right, you have to open the book, break the shrink wrap the dust jacket around the book, put it back in. Otherwise, they get kind of wrinkled and crinkled when you ship them. So if we're going to do them again, we either need to substantially increase the cost or just figure out a more efficient way, which we have not yet figured out yet. So I don't know that we're going to do dust jackets. The pinball.
Can I take one, Joe?
Oh, yeah, go for it, Brennan.
Somebody, let me see who it is. Bob Magic, what's that cone? Says, how did you get the pinball licenses? Joseph actually beat the actual pinball wizard 3 out of 4 on his favorite table, which is, of course, what's your favorite pinball machine?
Then a licensing agent appears magically and says, sign here. Yeah. No, it involved hanging out at a lot of pinball museums, pinball bars, pinball places saying, hey, do you know who owns the rights to that? And eventually I found the right guy. I will say, what adventure are you excited about? What's funny is I don't think Gorgar plays nearly as well as some of the modern games. Personally, I think Swords of Fury of those options is my favorite to play. But Gorgar, the art, man, the art. So I think as far as a pure adventure, I think it'd be Gorgar. Even though Swords of Fury, I personally think is a better game. Mike, what's your opinion as someone who's been stuck in pinball land for a while?
I mean, how can you go wrong with any of them? I mean, you just look at the cover art. Everything's got, you got red slime ladies coming out of like, proto eggs and stuff in an embryon. You've got a half person, half motorcycle in Centaur. I mean, it's they're all great. So.
And actually, there's a lot of great fantasy options we didn't pick. There's at least 6, 7, 8 really cool sort of fantasy or right next to fantasy / really cool sci-fi themed ones from that era of late 70s, early 80s. So if people love this and it does well, there might be a wave too. Mini comics, no plans for mini comics. We got our hands full with plenty of other stuff. Awesome.
Yeah, everybody go and download the pinball locator app for your phone that lets you find out where your pinball map. So you can find out what locations around you have pinball games and what titles they have. So if any of these 5 sound interesting, you can prepare for it by tracking it down and go dropping some quarters into it.
Yeah.
No, not all of them. We need some of those quarters.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. There's other questions I see in the chat. Some of these we addressed earlier in the show. Some of these we'll address, on the crowdfunding page and so on. But we're also running out of time, so it's been a while, and we're all getting tired, and I'm hungry. Anyway, thank you everybody. Sorry, Chef Holding a zines. Just look at Trevor Stamper did an amazing zine sized holder. and a crowdfunding recently. So check out, I'm forgetting what he actually called it, but check out that zine. Yeah, Worm Vault. That was it. WYRM. Worm Vault was an amazing. I have one that's very handy, and I think there's a couple left in the Goodman Games online store for holding zines. Really cool idea. Anyway, thanks everybody. If you came to Gen Con 2023 and wondered why the heck we had pinball machines at the booth, now you finally know the answer. And yes, there is pinball set up in the warehouse if you come to the Dungeon Con warehouse sale portion. Thanks everybody for joining us. Thank you, Brendan, Mike, Matt, Chris, and Mark and Absentia for joining us. It's been great. We'll have lots of other exciting announcements to come, but for now, this is all the news that's fit to print. And thank you for joining us for What's New with Goodman Games.
And everybody have a great feast of Cyclops Con.
Yes, join in Cyclops Con. First game start tomorrow. Lots of cool live streams. Cool stuff to come. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. See ya.
Cheers, all.
Bye.